Hi, everyone, and welcome again to this next EON XR Knowledge Metaverse podcast, where today we want to talk about contextual AI with EON Reality. I'm Jamie Justice. I'm Director of Education US and Global Innovation here at EON Reality. Also with me is Rena Walsinger with EON Reality, our Chief Learning Officer, and John Green, who is our Director of XR Experiences. We thought today we would just talk a little bit more about the changes that are coming to education and enterprise with the advent of Chat GPT, but actually this whole concept of artificial intelligence and the impact that it's going to have on our lives in the coming years. And so we thought we'd look at it from the standpoint of how this can impact teaching and learning, and how AI can be used to make life a little easier for teachers and a little bit more effective and a little bit more powerful in ways that we can use the AI findings to drive instruction inside of the EON XR platform. So with that, I will turn it over to John and Rena and allow them to give a little bit of overview and their thoughts about AI. And let's see how this all comes together as we take a few minutes here to explore contextual AI with EON Reality. John and Rena, take it over.
Fantastic. Thanks, Jamie. It's such an interesting topic right now, all this going on with AI. And what's interesting is the first thing that teachers tend to go to is, oh, it's a something where my students can go on and do things automatically. And really, I found out that's just maybe less than 1% of it, but it's a real productivity tool, and that's what we're going to talk about today. And I think the thing that changed my mind is right away I had it write a quiz, and then I had to do discussion prompts, and I saw the productivity that happened immediately. That was really well done, and then I can edit from there. But I have a really good foundation and things to use, jumping off point for materials that really saved in my prep time. What do you think, John?
That's right. And I've been talking to a lot of educators over the last few months about this very topic, bringing up ChatGPT and what their thoughts are. And I know what the news says. There's some fear out there, but I've personally heard from educators how much more efficient they feel with using these tools in terms of generating lesson plans, cutting down on administrative work that previously they took time to do, getting lesson plans approved. There's so much here that to explore and talk about the benefits that it could bring education. And what this does frees up a lot more time for the educator to spend on actually teaching and engaging with students and giving that personalized attention that students need during the education process.
The other thing that's interesting is I think of it now as a primary workforce skill. So, we always have had workforce skills, and one of the things is digital fluency or digital literacy, writing, problem solving, teamwork, a lot of things. But this is a new one, and so I'm pretty positive that students are going to need to understand how to use this new tool properly and demonstrate that in every job interview.
Yeah, I agree. It's another new tool that we can use, and I know that it has lots of scary pieces that go with it, but it doesn't have to be. And the thing about that, I think I had an epiphany last night about using Chat GPT in a different way and AI, and I realized that as an instructor, I can still control the content. I can still manage what's being taught. If we look at it from a perspective of students are going to write papers, use it, and turn it in. Well, yeah, that's not what we want. But if they do that and they write a paper with it, and then their assignment is to critique Chat GPT or AI, whatever format they use to get it, and is it valid? Is it accurate? What were its sources? What did you learn from it? It's going to build more rapidly a bigger arsenal of critical thinking tools that students develop and can use going forward. And with that, we can use it in an effective way to inform our instructional design and delivery using this tool in creative ways. And then when you blend that with augmented and virtual reality and spatial AI and spatial meetings and so forth, it's going to really change the way that people learn.
Absolutely. And I wanted to start with maybe talking about what we're doing at EON and then talk about how some of these tools make it a really rich experience. So maybe we can just talk about a little bit about spatial AI or contextual AI and how that works. And I'll just start with my perspective. So up till now, we've been doing really incredible work in VR and AR, bringing in models in 3D and adding knowledge portals and assessment portals, which we do and all of our clients do. So we added a different dimension in augmented reality where now you can do live Q&A right inside of the application using OpenAI. And you can also generate in the background, it saves everything and generates your lesson plan materials for your own reference. So you can use them if you want. It saves all your conversations. It adds quiz material, essay material, or not essay, informational material, a whole slew of things that we found pedagogically helpful for the instructor to, or even the student to save so that you have a nice experience to save and learn from all of that it saves. So it's different because one of the things I think the number one thing that faculty have told us is they just don't have time to generate content. And here we do this every day, so we generate it fairly quickly. But people don't have time. It's a new thing. But now with the AI integration, it sets it up for you so you can make changes, but you have completed lessons by just knowing one thing. What is your topic? So that's an incredible thought right there. So I'll just talk about my subject easy. So let's say I want to teach about a microphone. So I want to teach about a certain microphone model. It brings up the 3D image, all the information about it, all the parts about it. Every part has knowledge portals, videos, images, text, all that information comes up. Oh, that's a lot of information. That's more than I would have added myself manually. So I'm starting with a wealth of information about that microphone, or I could make it more complex, set up microphones on a drum set and then have multiple models and multiple information. So, or set up a microphone inside a recording studio. So now we're talking about setting up a whole studio, but the AI assisted technology allows that to be possible in virtually seconds. So I just wanted to start with that.
Yeah, and it's how that as you're describing that experience is just so engaging because we're in this idea of contextual AI. We're personalizing the learning experience to fit the learner's needs, where I can bring in 3D models that visually represents the concepts that I need to learn and connecting it with the power of AI. So now I can build my own custom personal environment and rely on AI to give me the information, whether I put myself in a hospital room and I can ask the AI questions about the tools that I need to become familiar with. And then I can bring in additional 3D models, such as a medical ventilator, learn about that machine. And what's nice about the EON tool, it saves the entire conversation, the entire Q&A session I have with the AI into a nice report that I can refer back to at any point in time. So it's a 360 experience with AI and 3D models.
I did one the other day in a cockpit. So we have a beautiful model from Boeing in a cockpit that you can do this in. But on the other end, you can also interact with real stuff. So I was in a real cockpit before takeoff. And then by setting an anchor so it knows where I am, I can label all the real parts. So in just a few seconds by just talking, I labeled about 10 different items. And you can see that on our YouTube channel, at EON on the YouTube channel. And then it brought up automatically the portals based on the labels that I had. So very, very quickly. And now I only had a few minutes in there. So I got the whole thing done and screen recorded it, which is another feature on the mobile devices in the app. Screen recorded that experience right there live. And so so you have different choices. And that's one of the things I like. You might want to use models or environments and then have an experience, or you might just want to use your own lab, or maybe if you're traveling, like you're at a certain place or museum and label things there. And when you return to those places, because it's anchored, those labels are there for other people to enjoy and learn from.
John, you were talking earlier about how teachers spend their time working, and you had some interesting information to share on that. I think that'll line up with some other thoughts we've had about how AI can help make that easier, and how we can use AI to help us find those easier lessons and versions of lessons like Rena was just talking about. So why don't you talk to us a little bit about what you'd found about teachers spend their time. And I've got a chart here that you can share.
Yeah, sure. So I was reading this article placed from eschoolnews.com, and it's an interesting article titled "Teachers Are Burning Out. Can AI Help?" And it brings up a lot of interesting concepts. But this chart really gets to I think, the root of the need for something uh, that will help educators uh, in their day to day. And here I can see this chart where it breaks down the average number of hours that an educator spends on education. You can see, according to this chart, to McKinsey research, 16.5 hours on student instruction and engagement, 10.5 hours on preparation, and then 5 hours on administrative tasks. So that this AI can be really powerful in terms of enabling the educator with those administrative duties, such as grading tests, uh, following up with students, preparing for a class, as Rena mentioned, preparing quizzes and maybe a multiple choice that's easy, advanced, and hard. And that takes time to really come up with engaging material, and then student instruction. So I think AI has a lot of potential in these areas, just freeing up the time for the educator just to focus in on those activities that they feel that really has a powerful impact in the education of the student.
Mhm.
What's interesting about this chart is if you're teaching CTE or TVET, I think that, well, at least for me, the preparation was even longer because you're teaching 3 classes. Let's say you're teaching 3 classes a week at 5 hours each, and that's 16 and a half hours there. Well, I'm going to spend right now, without any help, probably at least double that per class on preparation. Why? Because those classes, they change every term and they're not provided curriculum typically. They're
Yeah.
instructor generated curriculum. And so I would not be able to do 3 lessons a week in 10 hours. So my work week goes from here, you can see it's about 50 hours to maybe like 70 on that preparation. And I think that's a problem. So even if you're teaching 2 courses at 10 hours, you might be spending another 20 hours just preparing, which is really, I think, pretty accurate for courses where you're generating the curriculum every term.
Yep.
And so I think, so the way I started saving some time is just getting assistance and, like I mentioned before, quizzes, even outlining a session. What are the lab materials going to be? Student activities, an outline of, I can feed it information about the materials that I researched to talk about and have it provide a nice outline of that. So a lot of things that just cut that time in half right off the bat.
And I also think of pre-class activities, how you can assign experiences for the student to experience, go through content, go through an EON XR experience with the AI assistant, learn about a content. And now that student is coming to your class much more prepared with questions, ready to engage in classroom discussion. So I think with this AI and the ability for the teacher to track that experience, what the student did at home or as they were traveling, when you come back into the classroom, whether it's virtual or on site, you're able to easily track their experience and what they have done.
Absolutely. And even with the coaching, that's my favorite part, coaching and advisement. But if you had questions that were kind of factual and you can ask and do the research live there. And then really where I come in helping is my experience, and that never changes. But if people have individual questions that are more factual based, that's where they could be gaining information in other ways, besides everybody waiting to talk to me.
So, Rena, just to kind of that end, I think you could probably provide an example of the time saving that happens using AI. We were talking earlier that you've done a little bit of curriculum crosswalking with it. So let's take a look at some of what you've done with curriculum crosswalks, and maybe you can talk to this document just a little bit.
Absolutely. So one of the things I love doing, and I use ChatGPT 3.5 and ChatGPT 4 to make this roll this out. So I asked, as a university professor, in a table, list 5 top learning outcomes for whatever course on whatever topic, and in the display add the learning outcomes, a lesson, and a possible 3D model. Display this in a table with 3 columns. So in about 5 seconds, I get a nice table. So in this first one, I used a topic where it's a course that I took as an engineer about EKGs and the learning outcomes. I could give it the learning outcomes, but I asked it in this case to give me the 5 top learning outcomes in the subject. So understanding EKG concepts, identifying EKG rhythms, interpreting EKGs for common cardiac conditions, and so forth. So then the lesson topic on the first one was just introduction to EKGs, basic concepts and components. The model is a 3D model of a human heart with EKG electrodes. EKG patterns is model is interactive 3D EKG rhythm simulator. So actually what I would expect, because when I learned this topic, it was in a book, and they would have like a picture of the heart and where the conduction might happen, and then like an image of the resulting EKG. And now you can do this in 3D, but it tells me what models align with my learning outcome in 2D, 3D. It could be a scan, it could be environment, but it gives it to me right there. So and that's one of the things moving from 2D to 3D that most instructors ask is, well, what models do I need to find, or what do I need to use? Well, now I have assistants to get that information really concretely in a matter of seconds. So I use this almost on everything. You can generate tables in ChatGPT. I don't know if you knew that, but pretty beautiful. And then I use another application called Midjourney to generate a 2D image. And then below that, I don't know if you're able to scroll up, but I have a 3D image from Sketchfab. So for each of these I create, I have different ideas for all these lessons. And so I don't have to think of it from scratch. I mean, that's a huge thing, a huge help and some topics are not as obvious, topics in like business marketing. Some are more obvious, like aerospace engineering, but just aligning those learning outcomes, which we already have, to things that we don't have, 3D immersive learning models. This is just a super win-win for doing that.
Yeah, and I have to point out, the key thing is that if you look at learning outcome, you can generate those, or you can take your existing learning outcomes and you can put those into Chat GPT and then let it do these other pieces for you. You are still controlling, as the instructor, the facilitation and the guidance of the lesson that you're teaching. Chat GPT doesn't take over for you. This is a tool that really helps you become more effective at the job that you do, rather than being replaced. And I say that because I know there's a lot of fear out there of AI, and really we're still in control of it, and we will continue to be in control of it, being how we choose to use it. And so I think that what your examples here are very powerful examples of how you can use this to really create stuff rapidly that can help you be more effective at delivering what you already do. But you also may see new ways of addressing topics that you've done in the past, because this was generated in a unique way. And you might look at it a little bit more closely this time than just pulling something from past files and using and reusing. So I think at that point, this can really change the way that we teach, and change the way that we design and create lessons to be more efficient at what we do.
And also, I've been really impressed that what you mentioned, Jamie, the flexibility and how we are in control of this tool. And as I ask more questions about certain topics, I'm very impressed at how it has improved over the last just a couple of months.
Mhm.
How it can bring me personalized information. I can say, teach me about the jet engine. But if I don't know about the jet engine, I just want to get the whys. Why should I learn about the jet engine? Well, I can just change my question up a bit. Inspire me to learn about the jet engine, motivate me, tell me the reasons why I should learn if I'm in the engineering field about this equipment. It will give me a different answer, but much more personalized. So it can really scale in terms of if I want more advanced information, if I just want general, and we're in control of that as the user. So I think that's something to point out and show that the teachers and educators that you really can use this to benefit and to really customize the journey of your students.
Yeah.
I think it's going to change the way that we design things and safety things in the future. I was just up at University of Southern California, and they were talking about all these near misses that have been happening at airports. Y'all might have heard some of those, and it completely relied on the way you heard. One of the pilots heard something on the radio and then conveyed it to the other one. So there's already two steps of possible error, and then it involved, because you didn't hear it correctly from one of those sources, crossing active runways while people are landing and stuff. And none of those ended up in accidents, but near misses. And now when you're learning in this environment, you can ask the AI questions like, okay, well, if what would it take when I design this piece to add more information so that, or some more safeties in, or things like that. So I really think with this thinking, it's going to change not only the learning, but greatly improve problem solving for students coming up in these types of courses.
Yeah, it is. And we have a new release coming out here very soon, and with more on AI assistant and capabilities. And so it's the possibilities are endless. The opportunity is big on the horizon for the ways that we engage students and use these new tools to do that. And I think going forward, we'll have some other information to share with you shortly after this new release that will really amaze users with what the capabilities are for the EON XR platform and what we'll be calling AI Assistant and some other tools going forward. With that, I think we've talked about a few key topics today, and just keep the discussion going on where we want to head with XR and augmented reality and artificial intelligence and all these tools for the future. So, John, Rena, thank you very much for being with us today. And any other final comments before we leave? And if not, we'll call it another podcast.
Yeah, we'll see you out there with EON XR, and looking forward to helping everybody with AI. And thanks, Jamie and John. It's always a good time.
Great. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Looking forward to seeing the new release. Y'all take care. Have a great day. Bye-bye.